Greetings everyone, welcome to video 3. This probably isn't what you were expecting. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not what you were expecting to see if you've been following along with the first and second video I posted about the Rover engine rebuild. What you're looking at is a P38 4.0 liter V8 Rover engine, short block, with some accessories that I've installed since purchasing it. As you'll recall from the prior discussions, I was planning to rebuild my 4.6 liter Rover block with Darton liners and a bunch of new parts, including pistons and rings and so on. And I actually still plan to do that at some point in the future and either keep that engine in reserve or sell it as a rebuilt engine for someone else who's experiencing a similar situation with an engine having gone bad and needing a replacement. However, while I was browsing eBay one day, about a month and a half ago, I found a guy in Wisconsin who is a purchaser of factory surplus merchandise in the automotive industry. And this guy had for sale two 4-liter P38 Rover short blocks, factory surplus leftovers, never installed. And he was selling them for a very reasonable price. I don't really think this guy realized what he had and what the value was. So he had two and I bought two. So my revamped plan for replacing the engine in my 2003 SE7 is to use this 4-liter block and retrofit it. Since this was originally a mid to late 90s or I shouldn't say it was. It's all of the Rover V8 blocks essentially are the same form factor. They're the same physical dimensions. They have all the same bolt holes. They've just changed accessories over the years to accommodate some of the newer vehicles. Specifically what I'm talking about here is the 4.0 liter from the mid-90s was a GEMS, a GEMS engine, meant to support the vehicle ECU and fuel injection. I don't know what GEMS acronym stands for. I guess if I ever own a GEMS vehicle, I'll have to figure it out. I don't really care right now. So in any event, what I've done is I've converted this to accept the Bosch ECU, and the only thing that you really need to do is you'll notice right here is the crank position sensor, and you'll see that it has now the Bosch style connector, 3-wire. When you get a GEMS engine, it's going to be configured for use with the GEMS harness and that crank position sensor. It's a bit of a job to change the mount. I'll show you what to just step over to my toolbox here and grab the part. So this is I think it's an EIQ 1020 is the part number, and this is what the crank position sensor mount for a Bosch 4.6 engine looks like. It's actually aluminum tacked to the rear of the engine where the bell housing goes on the inside. So I actually had to grind away the GEMS mount and install. This is the second one that I plan to use on the second engine that I purchased. But anyway, it's now retrofitted for the Bosch harness, so we're ready to go. So figured I'd show you this. This is what's getting ready to go back in. I've got the oil pan and the pickup and the front cover with the oil pump, all new stuff. The front pulley and water pump. By the way, if you've ever considered purchasing Evaporust, if you've ever wondered if that stuff really does a good job, you ever watch those cable channels in the morning with those gearhead shows and they advertise this Evaporust stuff? It's pretty incredible actually. This harmonic balancer was in pretty rough shape. You can see there's still a little bit of rust if you look carefully on the inside, but a 24-hour soak in Evaporust turned that back to almost new condition. So, and it also, I soaked the water pump drive wheel, and it removed all of the surface rust on the area where the serpentine belt goes. So just a quick endorsement for that product. It's great stuff. So that's it for now. Getting ready to actually hook this back up to the engine hoist and put it in the vehicle today, and then hook up the ancillaries and so on, and I should be on my way. I'm not really too concerned about the difference between 4.0 and 4.6. It's not the 4.6 is not a monster horsepower engine anyway. I don't really think I'll even feel the difference. I did make the decision to install a 4.6 liter camshaft in this engine. The camshafts are interchangeable. I think you get a bit of a higher lift on the 4.6, which might give me, I don't know, a couple of horsepower more. But I figured as long as I have the option, why put the 4.0 liter camshaft in when I can, for a couple bucks more, put in the 4.6. But the rest of the internals are exactly the same, except with the exception of the camshaft, I think. In fact, which I know, the 4.0 has a longer or a shorter stroke. So the crankshaft is different between the 4.0 and the 4.6. Otherwise, they're essentially the same engine. I think that's it. There's not much more to tell you. The only other thing that I would show you on this engine is that if you've ever heard people discuss the difference between a red block, a blue block, and a yellow block, you can clearly see that here. There's a red dab or daub of paint on the inside of the lifter galley, which indicates that this is one of the engines that passed the most stringent quality control checks at Rover and was fit for installation in one of their Range Rover vehicles, one of the P38s. So it's really good now to have this vehicle, my Disco, running one of the very high quality P38 engines. So I'm hoping, even though it's still the original, press fit liner design engine, that because of the higher quality and the thicker cylinder walls between, the thickness between the cylinder wall and the water jacket, that we'll get at least 100,000 miles out of this vehicle, and whoever ends up buying it from me is going to have a really high quality piece, and the engine hopefully will outlast the serviceability of the remainder of the vehicle. That should be the way it goes anyway. So thanks for tuning in, and if something else comes up that I think you might be interested in, we'll go ahead and get it recorded and post number 4. Thanks, guys. See ya.